You know, of all the Beyblade X releases we've had in the last few months, the weirdest might just have to be Wriggle Kraken. This babe is part of Hasbro's exclusive CX line, which, to be fair, were all kinda weird, as they're all retools of other CX bays. One of which is a retool of a bay that Hasbro hasn't even officially released yet. But for me, Kraken stood out because it's a remake of Wizard Arc, a CX bay that was almost immediately shunned by the community and considered to be one of the worst CX releases. So let's see if the evolution from Wizard to Kraken can help this bay, and let's see if Kraken isn't lacking. God, the rhymes are getting worse. Oh no. As always, let's look at the stock combo and see what we're working with. CX bays come with 5 parts instead of 3, so we'll start out with the chip. There's not a whole lot to say here, as there's no real competitive difference between the normally released chips. The only one that's worth mentioning is the incredibly rare Valkyrie chip because it has metal in it. For this one, I really like the colours that they chose, and the Kraken motif is pretty cool, although it does kinda just look like a mind flare. The main blade here is Wriggle. Unfortunate name, but actually pretty decent blades. Like I mentioned earlier, this is a remake of Arc. However, with most retools, the plastic components stay the same while the metal is actually changed ever so slightly. With this line though, they kept the metal the exact same. Instead they changed the plastic by pulling it back slightly and exposing more of the metal. This has pulled back the plastic that was slightly blocking the gap in the original Arc, and it actually helps the blade quite a lot. Due to a round slope design, this blade's really good for getting under opponents and destabilising them, and when you open up the gap it gives kinda like a starting point for it to catch under and do that even faster, even though technically it means that the opponent can just do the same back to them. For the assist blade we have Slash. This is probably one of the better assist blades as it's smaller than the rest and it hugs into the main blade, meaning it's not really going to get in the way of what the main blade's trying to achieve. Next up is the Ratchet, and yeah, they really put this thing on 385. CX bays already have a bad reputation for being too tall, so putting this thing on one of the highest ratchets that we have is insane. On top of this, 85 height ratchets use a different locking mechanism which is way less secure than all the other ones, meaning the burst resistance here is terrible. Finally, we have the bit. Orb is pretty solid for stamina. Because it's slightly thinner than Ball, it's able to angle itself a little bit more, which is really good for maintaining balance. However, that smaller surface area means it has slightly worse contact with the stadium, making it a lot more susceptible to over and extreme finishes. Even though on paper this combo looks less than great, it held up surprisingly well in my testing. The super tall build was surprisingly stable, and thanks to Orb it was able to maintain stamina while being almost completely sideways. Even so, I think we can do a little bit better. Now, I'm gonna level with you. If you've watched my previous videos, it's fairly obvious that I like defense types, and I fully intended for this to be a more aggressive attack type, but watching it constantly tank massive hits, it gave me some ideas. First off, we're gonna switch out the assist blade from Slash to Bumper. This is probably the most minimal change, and there's a really good case for just keeping Slash, but I chose Bumper because it covers the gaps in the main blade from underneath, which as I theorised would stop the other blade from being able to use its design against it. Bumper also curves up quite nicely to the main blade, which can absorb quite a lot of lower attacks, and plastic is a lot better for absorbing those hits than metal. However, due to that sloping design, it can sometimes cause the opponent's bay to go right for your own ratchet. So to account for that, and to keep this bay on a slightly lower height, we've went with 960. 960 has fantastic burst resistance, and the 60 height allows this bay to actually get underneath its opponent and destabilise. The final choice is the bit. Now, I could have kept Orb and I would have been fairly happy with it, but to maximise the impact this bay can take, I've decided to go with Free Ball. This bit is quite a similar shape to Orb, but it's missing the internal gear ring, meaning that while it's in the bay, it's able to spin freely. The free spinning gimmick helps to disperse kinetic energy when this thing takes a big hit, which further increases this bay's defensive capabilities. So let's test it out. This is a really fun tanky combo, and what I especially like about it is it takes the main blade and an assist blade that were both considered to be some of the worst in their lineup, making this a great example of part synergy and really what this channel is all about, which is why I recommend Wriggle Kraken Bumper on 960 free ball. So what do you think of this combo? Do you like it as a defense type, or would you prefer it as an attack type? Let me know down in the comments, along with any other blades you'd like me to look at on the channel. Who knows, the next one might not be a defense type. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.